Mr. Carrott, the theatre is ready for you now.
He was a hard-headed man. He was brutally handsome. And she was terminally pretty. She held him up and he had a nasty reputation as a cruel dude. And said he was ruthless. Lose your mind. Life in the fast lane.
Thank you. There you go. Thank you very much. Good evening. And, what a wonderful reaction to comic relief last night. Wasn't that wonderful? Over £7 million raised, and all through everyone getting into the spirit of the things. Mrs. Thatcher and her husband Dennis gave their full support, although, of course, between them, they only had to buy one red nose. It was so successful, everyone's getting in on the relief act. Edwina Curry is going to have her mouth sewn up for a month. Gives us all pain relief. A fringe benefit of comic relief was that it gave us a break from all the Australian celebrations. 200 years ago, we sent all our criminals to take the place over. It worked so well, we're trying it again in Marbella. Clap so early on, very good, I like it. There's been a lot of frustration about this week. The nurses, seamen, Ford workers. The problem is catching your tolerance level drops. I mean, particularly on the telephone. Telephone answering machines drive me up the wall. All you get is, please speak after the tone. Beep. Hello. If you think that's annoying, wait till you get an answering machine. Listening to messages from the incapable. I'm not very good with answering machines. I don't know what to do or say. I get ever so upset and frustrated. So do I, you pea-brained amoeba! What do you want? But no, they ramble on for the next 20 minutes telling you how they can't talk to machines. Uses all your tape up, no one can get through. What do they say at the end? Oh, by the way, it's Susan calling. Susan who? What's your number? Then I have to phone up every Susan I've ever known. Anyway. Mind you, no matter how bad answering machines are, they can't be worse than phoning up a company and coming across one of those receptionists that puts you on hold. Just one moment, please. And then there's silence. And more silence. And you know she's forgotten you. So you start yelling down the phone. Hello? Hello, are you there? Are you there? This is an emergency. Hello, can you hear me? Of course they can hear you. But they won't answer now because although it's their fault, you shouldn't be shouting down the phone like it. Hello, this is an emergency. It's life or death. Help! I've just had a course in acupuncture and I'm a haemophiliac. Then you start banging the receiver, and you overdo it, and you lose the line. And then you ring back, and it's engaged. Of course it's engaged. It's still connected to the call they cut yourself off from. Sometimes they play music while you hold. Well, I presume it's music. Sounds like Frankie Goes to Hollywood without the session musicians. I tell you that the music that irritates me most is that stuff that accompanies CFAX or Oracle, you know? And the information pages on the television, you know what I'm talking about? And the music is always wheels cha-cha-cha, isn't it? Ding, 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 ding. 2,000 villagers made homeless by volcanic eruption. Ding, 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 ding. Nuclear war breaks out in Europe. Ding, 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 ding. You can't get away from extraneous noise in the cinema. It's now pretty near nigh impossible to hear the sound, right? Cinemas are permanently inhabited by people with terminal bronchitis. They're there to spend their last few moments on Earth hacking themselves into oblivion. As a compliment to this sound of mucus, we have the popcorn addicts, right? The popcorn addicts, who don't buy popcorn by the weight. They buy by the decibel level of the bag. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. Will you shut up? Why women waste money on personal attack alarms, I just don't know. Keep a packet of Butterkist in your pocket. Muggers will have no chance with it. Another thing that gets me annoyed is having to drive in London. Right? I mean, every year I come down here and it's getting worse. Every year it's getting more like New York here. There are two speeds in London, 100 mile an hour and stop. And as for traffic lights, well, they just change colour. That's all they do. Nobody takes a blind bit of notice. I mean, if you pull up at a red light, everybody thinks you're mental. What's up with you, John, eh? What's up with you, nothing bloody coming? Come on, get up, keep move on, go on. And if you pull up at a zebra crossing, forget it. For a start, none of the pedestrians are going to risk crossing the road, are they? Secondly, while you're waiting, someone comes and bloody wheel clamps your car. It's a nightmare out there. And you have to be aware of all the tricks of driving in London. You know, you catch on after all. I mean, for instance, I was driving down the Edgware Road. Right? It's two-way traffic and there's cars parked on either side, so it's single file all the way. Right? And I'm driving behind this bloke in front. I'm right up his bumper, right? It's what you've got to do in London. You've got to drive right on the bumper. I mean, you know, you leave a gap 2 or 3 inches and something comes in. You know? A Skoda or something, isn't it? So I'm following this bloke, right, and he starts to indicate left, and I'm thinking, blimey, think quick. I've got to get round him. And get into the space he's going to leave before the bloke behind me gets there. Good thinking, eh? Good thinking. So I pull out, but he's not turning left. He's turning right. And the only way he can stop the oncoming traffic to turn right is to put a bozo in the other side of the road. And all the drivers are going, dickhead! Dickhead! Whoa! That's something I've learned down here. Whoa! That's a wonderful sign, isn't it? Whoa! It's not round the country, it's wonderful in Birmingham. Somebody cuts me up and it's like, whoa! And they're going, what the hell? Whoa! They haven't got a clue. They start looking through the highway code. What the hell? I mean, like, the best they can do is like, you know, go, whoa! Or if you want to be really mean, whoa!
I know I can handle it. I haven't been doing it for long, but it's great. My friends tell me I'm mad, but I know I won't get in too deep. Okay, so I do quite a lot now. But it's all right, I know when to stop. It's all right. I'm not ill. Just a little tired, maybe. I've been working too hard. That's all.
Come on, nurse. Pull yourself together. You're back on duty again. Being a heroine really screws you up.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of news this week. The police chief of Greater Manchester, James Anderton, has just been converted to Catholicism. It's quite true. Thank God he didn't become a Jehovah's Witness. Imagine him knocking on your door. He wouldn't flog you a watchtower, he'd flog you with it, wouldn't it? Police in Gloucestershire are looking for a man who robbed a building society and made his getaway on a country bus. They plan to pursue him on Wednesday afternoons and Saturday mornings. In America, our very own Joan Collins has been given $3 million advance for her first novel. She's told the publishers she'll get down to writing every single night, no matter what she's doing. But be prepared for the wobbly handwriting. I love the old ones. Parliament votes next week on whether or not to allow the televising of the House of Commons. Anticipating victory, the pro-television lobby has already prepared its schedules and is announcing them in the first issue of the new television magazine, MP Times.
Welcome to this bumper issue of MP Times. 634 MPs all desperate to get on the box. In an exclusive interview, Margaret Thatcher talks about life after Lord Whitelaw and confesses, "I can't do without my Willie." Then there's Jack a Tory, read each day by Michael Heseltine, Leon Britton and Francis Pym. Our film feature takes you behind the scenes of Hammer House of Commons, starring Edwina Curry as the junior health minister. It also looks at the new series of The Invisible Man, starring Robert McLennan. The House of Lords goes for a coach ride, and the MP Times is there for this Antiques Roadshow. Education Minister Kenneth Baker goes back to school and says the Tories are doubling their investment in education in That Ain't Half Rot, Mum. Don't miss Melvin Bragg's interview with Gary Hart as he meets George Galloway on the South Bonk Show. And we've got Roy Hattersley talking about a question of spit. All this and lots less in your bumper MP Times. And don't forget our hospital bed competition. Just fill in the bedpan you'll find on the back page, and you can win a free income tax rebate for life if you can guess Nigel Lawson's correct weight. A whole lot more on your MP Times.
There's so many morons in your MP Times.
When Parliament gave a third reading to the all-day drinking bill on Wednesday, another law headed for the statute books. There are already on the statute books some 26 volumes of law running to 250,000 different pieces of legislation. And you've got to know all this. You better know it because ignorance of the law is no excuse. For the general public, our main contact with lawyers and solicitors comes from when we're dealing with buying and selling our houses. Now, it's surprising how many people still think by law you have to use a solicitor to buy or sell your house. You don't. You can do it yourself. Of course, the Law Society will tell you that the conveyancing of property is a minefield of laws, covenants and clauses. Yes, but who made them all? Right. Lawyers. Of course, you can sue your lawyer if something goes wrong, but who's going to do that for you? A lawyer? If you do take your own case to court, you are at a disadvantage straight away because you don't know the jargon. The party here too, with aforementioned notwithstanding, means the crook I'm talking to on the stand. Objection overruled means don't talk crap. And my distinguished learned friend means the arsehole with the wig on. Is the law fair? Are we all equal in the eyes of the law? Well, some are more equal than others. Take barristers, for instance. You cannot sue them for breach of contract with their client or negligence in their performance in court, which means they can present your case absolutely rat-old and there's naff all you can do about it. And yet barristers are the only people allowed to practice law in the High Court. Practice law! The charges they charge are blood. I mean, they must be perfect. Look, do judges treat everyone the same? Well, there are some judges who seem to think that rape is slightly less of a misdemeanour than double parking. So they would appear to be mellow and fair. However, if you are of a professional standing, they might see your side of it with a slightly biased eye. For instance, in the famous Jeremy Thorpe trial, the judge summed up saying that the jobless Norman Scott told lies. However, Jeremy Thorpe, MP, gave explanations which could not always have been the truth. Make your own mind up. So with this background, how do we go about obeying the law? Well, for instance, did you know on a Sunday you can't buy a Bible, but you can buy a penthouse? On Mothering Sunday, you can't buy a Mother's Day card, but you can buy a porno magazine. Probably best to tell your mum you forgot. The Sunday trading laws are full of silly anomalies like that. You can't buy fish and chips from a fish and chip shop, but you can buy them from a Chinese takeaway. Yes, but it's not the same, is it? You get that warm welcome from the Chinese. You're like, whoa, what do you want? I'll have 30p at number 4, 22 twice, and a bag of 19. Oh, 41, 42? Yeah, salt and vinegar, OK, yeah. Chemists are allowed to open, but only for medical and surgical appliances. In other words, you can buy a razor blade for cutting your corns, but not if you intend to shave with it. How does the chemist know this? It makes you take your sock off. He watches you cut your corn. Then you can keep the blade, go home and shave with it. Then it's back to the chemist for the elastoplast. Mind you, you're fairly safe in the chemist on a Sunday. It's not the sort of place you go without sort of knowing what you're going to purchase. I mean, it's not exactly the place that you impulse buy, is it? When you don't go, ooh, preparation H. I wonder what that tastes like. Yeah, well, they know where they can shove that. Of course, all the Sunday trading laws are fairly academic, and most people flaunt them anyway. Do-it-yourself stores are the worst offenders, but here again, they've got the most to gain. There's a bloke in the West Country called Mike Robertson, and he's head of a chain of shops called Trigo Mills. To get round the Sunday restrictions, he had the idea of converting all his 400 staff to Islam. Would have worked too, but the staff got a bit carried away and started chopping the arms off all the shoplifters. The main objection to Sunday trading is the Lord's Day Observance Society. Now, this band of good time hijinks fun freaks would like to see Sunday closed down altogether. And to support their demands, they cite the third commandment. 6 days you shall labour, but the seventh day is a Sabbath. The Lord blessed the seventh day and made it holy. Fine. But the key word here is seventh. The seventh day. Well, on the calendar, the seventh day is Saturday. Sunday's the first day, Saturday's the seventh. See, the Jews are right again. The laws governing public transport are interesting. They are riddled with curiosities like, and I quote, when two trains approach each other at a crossing, they shall both stop. And neither shall start off until the other has gone. Sounds like the Alliance, doesn't it? Huh? My favourite case of not reading the fine print was in Texas in 1967. Bills were passing through Assembly with only the most cursory examination of the wording. And to prove a point, a public-spirited legislator took the law into his own hands and introduced a bill commending, I quote, Mr. Albert DeSalvo for his outstanding work in population control. The bill was passed unanimously, even though Mr. DeSalvo had murdered 13 women as the Boston Strangler. And finally, the City of Westminster and their bylaws for public libraries. It says, a person shall not enter the library if they are unclean or suffering from an offensive disease. How is the librarian supposed to know that? From the books they're returning, I think. Scratcher in the Rye, 7-Year Itch, Pearson's Guide to Dodgy Rashes. Now it's time for Stephen Hugh, but I can't tell you what they're going to do this week because I'd be breaking the Official Secrets Act if I did. Stephen Hugh.
Good evening. Tonight, we examine what is certainly the biggest and most far-reaching security scandal to hit Britain since last week. For more than a year now, the British government has been fighting to prevent the publication of the controversial book, Egg Hatcher.
The book contains revelations that are as astonishing as they are controversial. Amongst these, it is alleged that Birmingham is a large town between London and Manchester. That Sir Harold Wilson resigned because he wanted to. And most sensationally of all, that Sir Geoffrey Howe once said something interesting.
The truth may never be known, for someone has been at pains to dispose of the evidence. Some secret documents have been shredded, others burnt, others simply put into the second-class post. We only know of the affair because a junior civil servant, Mr. Colin Nibbling, gave information to the press. An unscrupulous journalist got the story out of him by taking him to the pub and getting him drunk. After 12 pints of lager, the result was a major leak. Which was splashed across all the papers.
The story he told was an incredible one. In 1959, Britain, France and Germany had developed an awesome new weapon capable of destroying human brain cells. Its name, the Eurovision Song Contest. This fell into Russian hands when Sir Nigel Barton Harton went over to the Soviets. Or as The Guardian reported it, he defecated to the east. Barton was one of Britain's top codebreakers, capable of deciphering the most incomprehensible data. He could even understand a supplementary benefit form.
Barton Harton had begun his career at Cambridge, where he had contact with Johnson, an agent, Harston, a double agent, and Burgess Philby MacLean, an estate agent. Then, in the early 1950s, he had worked on Britain's first nuclear tests. Realising that these were a danger to human life, he persuaded the British government to take the only honourable course and hold the tests in Australia. It could be the side effects of the fallout which turned him into a mole. Why else would a top scientist become a defector? Professor Hershey of the University of California.
A typical defector is a depressive who represses his feelings, regresses in consequence, and therefore becomes aggressive and politically progressive. We call this the progressive, aggressive, regressive, repressed, depressive defector factor.
So, in other words,
a weirdo.
In 1981, in a dawn spy swap on the East German border, the Russians exchanged Barton Harton for 3 pairs of jeans and a Madonna album.
Back in London, he was debriefed by the departmental head of foreign affairs, the parsmental head of records, and the completely mental head of security. In his years in Moscow, he had handed over many closely guarded British secrets. The location of nuclear sites, communication codes, the formula for British Rail coffee.
To prevent publication of these allegations, the government went to court in Australia accusing the book of libel. Unfortunately, in Australia, a libel is simply something found on the side of a wine bottle. And they lost. But why? Why this constant battle between East and West? I asked an expert exactly what are the communication difficulties across the Iron Curtain.
Kein Blumenschläng der Jetsch in Nomen Tebit. Schlump. Cispień Schlangensker vle pen to Moscow and Kamerachin Trunkol the history pot noodle.
I think that says it all. Good night.
Thanks to Stephen Hugh. So, next week sees the start of the Winter Olympics at Calgary in Canada, where the BBC are spending £1.75 million to bring us pictures of snow, the Swiss national anthem, and bobsleighers. 4 lunatics attempting suicide in a converted hush puppy. I don't see what all the excitement skiing is about. I mean, I do not see the fun in hurtling down a mountainside out of control on a pair of Esther Ranson toothpicks. So, People say to me, you must go, there's nothing like it. Yes, there is. Diving headfirst into a snowplow comes pretty close. I don't like the cold. I'm not happy in freezing pack ice. I'm not cut out for skiing. I tried out a dry ski slope and got snow blindness. Some people are fanatical about it. One of the crew who goes every year said the bravest person he'd ever seen was a blind man skiing. Full pelt down the slope. I thought, blimey, if you think he's brave, what about his Labrador? There's the dog, you know, with the bells round his neck, you know. It's the one time in the dog's life he never wants to see a tree. Skiing is so boring to watch. I mean, it's so boring, they've combined it with another sport, trying to make it interesting, shooting. They call it a biathlon. What do they shoot? Ski jumpers. Oh, boom. At least it's more interesting. Let's hope it catches on, you know, with other brain-numbing sports. How about motor racing and bowls? Get rid of all the boring participants in one go. Thank you. Skiing has, for generations now, been a sport for the rich. The royal family are very keen skiers. No doubt it's because it's the only time they can go over 70 miles an hour without getting booked by the police. But this sport for the well-heeled is no longer exclusive. With the advent of package tours, Torremolinos is coming to St. Moritz. God help them. Instead of après-ski, it's après-bingo. Clickety-click for 66 broken legs and Kelly's eye for one on the end of a ski stick. At least they'll be happy in Austria. They'll love our tourists. They'll finally have people who couldn't give a toss whether they drink the local wine or antifreeze. Why is it that British tourists have to be the most outrageous? I blame the Guinness Book of Records, you know. And well, it encourages people to drink the most, to eat the most. Some strange records are held by Brits. A man in Northern Ireland holds the world yodelling record. 27 hours. And they had to lift him off the railing. A man called Chris Locke crawled for a record 27 miles to get into the record books. Another 3 miles he could have got into Mrs. Thatcher's cabinet. And Mr. Alfred West managed to split one single human hair into 16 different strands. Amazing. He now works at Gatwick Catering slicing ham. Oh, you see? Mr. McIntyre holds the world record for bagpipe playing. 12 hours. Would have been longer, but somebody shot him. There was a bloke in Chicago who ate an 11-foot birch tree in 89 hours. His stools were amazing. Actually, it's not difficult to get into the record. It's not difficult to get in. I mean, you just have to make up any old nonsense feat or activity, you know, like hang gliding naked through Sainsbury's, heavy petting with a giant marrow. I mean, you might get the record, but you've got no chance of being on Record Breakers with Roy Castle. People do want to be famous, no matter what they have to do. They'll do anything to get on TV. I mean, every time you see an outside news report, right, there's always some bozo standing behind the reporter, isn't it? Waving his straitjacket. Who are they? What do they do when there's no news crews about? Well, most of them end up on Blind Date. Yes, no? You haven't been on, no. The contestants are getting so ugly on that show, they're going to have to call it Blind Drunk. Talking about uglies, I was watching Channel 4 last week and by chance turned on to sumo wrestling. Hey, I saw 2 fat slobs grunting at each other. I thought, oh, blimey, not darts again. Then I realised what it was, and these blokes are some size, aren't they? One bloke's 42 stone. I thought, when he goes for a suit, who measures his inside leg? Takes courage, huh? What surprises me about sumo wrestling is the proximity of the spectators. They're only about 4 foot from the ringside. Every few minutes, 40-stone sumo lands on somebody. When the next spectator comes along, he has to get his handkerchief out and wipe away the previous occupant. But people still take the risk of being crushed to death just in case someone, you know, can get a glimpse of them on TV. People want to be famous. They want to leave their mark on life. I mean, everybody wants to be famous. Do you want to be famous? Yeah. You are. I tell you what. Let's make somebody famous. Let's put the camera on somebody. Let's make somebody famous. Have a look round. Where can we go? Come on, have a look. Who wants to be famous? Let's have a look. Where? No. There. How about you? There, the bloke with the jumper. The bloke with the jumper with the reindeer on. Did your mum buy you that for Christmas? Did you? Mums do that sort of thing, don't they? Oh, that'll do our John, that will. It'll match the Bay City roller scarf I bought him last year. Put the camera on. Can we have the camera on the guys? There we are. Just keep it on. There you are. Hold it. There you are, eh? OK, you're famous now. You're famous. That's it. In the pub in the morning. Hey, you'll be there, will you? Hey, lunchtime, everybody will be coming in going, oh! It is, isn't it? It is. Beryl! It is, it's that bloke that was at the Jasper Carrott show last night. You know the one? With the jumper with the reindeer on. The dickhead, yeah! Sorry about that. Now we've just got time to show you a piece we couldn't show you last week, if you remember. It's our report on fast food.
Morning. I'd like 3 Big Mac burgers with dill pickle, ketchup and no hamburgers. My daughter's a vegetarian.
The question is, what is fast food? Now, in early civilization, man was fast food. But of course, fast food probably originated in ancient Greece, rather than the vegetable oil we use today. It was, of course, the ancient Greeks who invented the doner kebab. Even in those days, people didn't know what doner kebab was made of. It, in fact, came from a rare breed of Mycenaean sheep. Of course, all doners are not brought to be eaten. The doner is a very versatile food. Not only does it fit car exhaust, but it's in great demand as a designer posing pouch. And the range of fast food is improving all the time. You can now get fast Mexican food.
Plenty regular.
And fast Italian food.
Spaghetti e pomodoro.
How will people evolve from eating fast food? Well, in 1,000 years' time, man will look like this. Notice the complete S shape. This is from sitting in cars and chairs in fast food restaurants. Notice the large flat hand like a big tray. This has evolved to hold the cartons of chips and the milkshakes. See how the nose has developed. This is so that they can drink the milkshake while they're eating the burger. The burger, in fact, is in this claw-like hand. And notice the cup at the end of the elbow to catch the grease that runs down there. Notice the extended chin. This is to catch all the pieces of relish that drop from the burger. By the year 2000, food will be so fast, man will need 2 mouths. The normal one, and this one here. And because man eats food so quickly, he will have to get rid of it quickly. That is why a 2,000-year-old man will have developed a double anus. Bon appetit. I was tempted to go bum bum at the end, but I thought no. And finally tonight, we'll leave you with the answer to the question everyone's asking. How did Peugeot make that flaming car commercial? Easy peasy. Watch. Okay, Peugeot, 25 quid!